Hello everyone, my name is Samantha Neeley, and today I will be sharing with you my persuasive speech. For years, there has been a debate over whether or not sex education should be taught in schools. Much of the opposition to sex education programs come from abstinence-only programs. And typically they claim that abstinence is not only morally correct, but also the only way to completely guarantee against teenage pregnancies or the transmission of disease. And though morality is subjective and debatable, effectiveness is not. I would like to speak with you today about how we must face the fact that abstinence-only programs are not working, and how we must begin to educate our teens on sex if we want to protect them. I will share with you empirical, social, and economical evidence that supports these claims, as well as addressing logic that we as a society must face. Though there has been a decline in teenage pregnancy rates, researchers at the Columbia University and the Guttamack Institute found that the majority of this decline is not from abstinence-only programs. 86% of this decline was produced by more widespread and effective use of condoms, which means only 14% of this result was produced by abstinence-only programs. Visually, those numbers look something like this. Numbers like these make it clear that properly educating teens about sex is way more effective and way more important than telling them just to say no. Because additional studies have shown that participants in abstinence-only programs are just as likely to become sexually active as their peers who are not in abstinence-only programs. A study was done where they took a peer group and broke it down into two groups. A control group with kids who had just sworn abstinence only, and then a group of kids who hadn't sworn abstinence only. They collected data, and the results are kind of shocking. It was found that people were sexually active in both groups, and that in both groups, the average age of the first sexual encounter was 15 years old, and that the kids who were sexually active had, on average, had at least 2 sexual partners. And that's not even the weirdest part. The weirdest part, and the scariest part, is that between both groups, only 25% of the kids who were sexually active used a condom. This is a problem. Incorrect or lack of use of a condom is the leading cause of teen pregnancies and terminated pregnancies, as well as the transmission of sexually transmitted diseases. It's been found that many participants of abstinence-only programs still engage in sexual activity, but instead of having vaginal sex, they either choose to have oral or anal sex because they only associate virginity with the traditional vaginal sex. These sexual behaviors that they're engaging in actually increase their chances of contracting an STD. And that's a problem, because a study done by the Federal Centers for Disease Control and Prevention found that 1 in 4 young women between the ages of 14 and 19 had at least one of the 4 most common sexually transmitted diseases. And the scariest part is that research shows that teens who claim abstinence only but become sexually active anyway generally refuse to get tested, which means that, or they refuse to get tested because they're afraid of their peers or their family or their churches finding out that they had engaged in sexual activity and then ridiculing or shunning them. And so these kids will engage in sexual activity and put themselves at risk and then not get checked afterwards, which means that any of these kids could have contracted a disease and know nothing about it and not get tested or treated for it. And by not getting treated for it, it can lead to huge health issues for them, but also the threat of it spreading to other teens that the infected teens become involved with. Joy Davidson, a certified sex therapist in New York, who is on the board of directors of the American Association of Sexuality Educators, Counselors, and Therapists, was quoted as saying, "There have been studies that have been done in the last few years that have at least made it quite clear that abstinence only is not only a waste of time and money, but is a danger to young adults as well." And I cannot agree with her more. Teaching teens how to use condoms and other means of contraceptives is vital. Evidence supports the fact that typically teens are going to become sexually active, even if they claim abstinence, and that abstinence-only programs do very, very little to prevent this. But sex education can prevent pregnancies and disease transmission by teaching teens how to be responsible during sex, but also the measures they can take after intercourse to protect themselves, such as getting tested for STDs or the morning after pill or things of that nature. And by letting teens know that these options exist, we can help to protect them and secure their futures. How much are we paying for these programs that aren't working anyway? Well, ABC News reported that the Bush administration had budgeted $176 million on abstinence-only programs. $176 million on programs that are proving to not be effective. And this is happening as our society and our nation is spiraling into a recession. Is this really where you want your tax dollars going? Or would you rather your money go towards programs that can actually educate and help protect teens' health in the future? Just something to think about. We live in a society that is highly, highly saturated with sex. It's everywhere in the media, on television, in movies, on the radio. You can't go anywhere or hear anything without hearing about sex. We see it all the time, and so do teens. Pretending that it's not there will not make it go away. And honestly, it's not something that should go away. Sex is a natural and healthy part of life under the right circumstances. But teens need to be taught what those circumstances are. And though it should be the responsibility of their parents to educate them about sex, many parents can't or will not do so. Should their children be allowed to fall through the cracks? Should their children be more at risk for contracting HIV or AIDS or any other sexually transmitted disease or becoming pregnant? No. Every child deserves the same amount of knowledge to base their decisions off of and to protect themselves with. And if their parents cannot provide or will not provide this knowledge for them, schools should be able to. As I said, sex education programs are commonly opposed by those who support abstinence-only programs, claiming that abstinence is not only morally correct, but also the only way to properly protect against unwanted pregnancies. And, as I said, though morality is subjective and debatable, effectiveness isn't. And it's been proven again and again that abstinence-only programs may be actually harming teens more than it's helping them. What we need as a nation is programs in which we teach the youth how to be safe and responsible when it comes to their bodies and their choices. But honestly, it doesn't have to be one or the other. Abstinence can still be promoted while educating teens about sex. You can tell kids about abstinence, but also inform them on the measures to protect themselves in case they do decide to become sexually active. And this is a middle ground that can appease everyone, because it preserves both the religious belief and also promotes the social health of teens. And this is what I believe we should strive for. And it can be accomplished by allowing sex education programs to be taught in schools. Thank you very much.